for anyone who wants to watch later. Um, but the whole goal really around all of this is to sort of let you guys into, first of all, my journey. When I started, starting businesses of my own, it was mainly because I was just kind of sick of being an EA. That's really what it came down to. Like I was
Mhm.
sick of people telling me what my worth was, or that my worth was being based on what I produced for them to help them succeed, as opposed to them then having the reciprocity to help me succeed as well. That really never happened in the 27 years that I was an executive assistant. And, I don't blame my executives necessarily. I blame myself for not getting out of the game earlier.
Mhm.
And that's just me because I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, had no idea how to bring it to fruition, but I was
Mhm.
able to sort of, at least, kind of figure it out and figure out really where my strengths lie. What I was passionate about, what I knew for a fact to be true. And I think really that's kind of what entrepreneurship is all about. I was watching a bunch of I have these now. I've been doing these immersions, deep immersions into entrepreneurship and successful people and successful ideas and things like that, because I'm still trying to not necessarily figure out what the magic bullet is, but more around what the sort of series of steps are that anyone can follow in order to exact an outcome. So, one of the things that continues to come up as a theme is, you have to figure out a problem to solve. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much how, that's pretty much how, um, in my opinion, how you can make real money is you have to figure out, is there a problem in the wild that my expertise, my experience, my unique perspective on things can in some way solve. So let's use me as an example. When I started Tribe, I had already been teaching out in the wild. I had already been teaching, those of you that date all the way back to Mega U, I was teaching these classes, and those classes only came about because I was sick of all things related to Bonnie Low Kramen, all things related to Lucy Brazier, and not to slag them because, thank
Mhm.
God they existed because it gave me a big fat door to walk through. But it was more around, you're still teaching 1979 secretaryism, and that doesn't work for me. I didn't have that path. I had to figure shit out in a whole different way, really quickly. So I just sort of looked at the entire landscape and I'm like, okay, the problem here is no one's telling the truth, like the real truth. It's one thing to say, this, and this will make you successful as an executive assistant, but you're not also teaching the fact that there's misogyny, there's preconceived notions about your worth and your education, and all of this stuff that actually does have a massive effect on how you are doing your job, because it's the treatment that you're getting from your executive that will have an effect on, do you feel supported, do you feel as smart as they are, do you feel like you're being respected at the same level as they are. And yes, that does affect your production. So what I wanted to do was, the problem that I saw was really just going out and querying. I threw it, like I think I told you guys, I had a couple of glasses of champagne, just threw up a class. It sold out. It was in San Francisco, and I was living in San Francisco, so that was easy. And sold out for me was, I think I had 12 people in my first class, but I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think 12 people were even listening to me, first of all, and certainly willing to pay. I think my first class was like $225 or some shit. And I was just like, and certainly willing to pay, $225 to see me talk. But I thought about it. I'm like, I have a job. You know what? I'll just take this money and we're going to go out and have a really good lunch at the same time, because I know executive assistants like good quality food. And we also really open up and talk about the challenges when we got a little champagne in front of us, we got really good high quality food in front of us, we're among ourselves, and we're able to sort of really, rally around each other to speak openly and honestly. And it worked. Who knew? I people really sort of got it. They love the class because I told the full truth. I told them like, this is what I went through. This is, you want to know how to actually get a raise and basically shame people into giving you a raise. This is how you do it. You want to know how to, deal with like difficult people. You pull their ass in a dark ass conference room, you lock the door and look a little menacing, and you tell them, I see you. I will fuck you up. So you really, and I'll deny everything the second we walk out of here. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to, and this is the stuff that they would never teach you in a Bonnie course or never teach you in a Victoria Louise Rabin course or something like that. That's why she was really, depending upon me to sort of tell the truth all the time, and inviting me to be in her conferences and stuff, which I appreciate to an extent, but I also figured out that I was being used. So, again, this is one of those things where I saw an opportunity here. And the opportunity was to not only tell the truth, it comes from a pure place. Yes, I would love to make money. Yes, I would love to do it, as a job. And I was able to do that eventually. But really, it was more around just putting more truth into the world. The problem I was solving was the bullshit, was really, the sort of, namby-pamby light version of what it is to be an executive assistant. And that's why I really only focused on the executive assistants at a certain level, because I feel that, some assistants, let's be honest with you, the check is good, especially if you live in, those high ticket regions like San Francisco, like New York City, like Austin, Texas in certain respects, Dallas in certain respects, that kind of thing. Chicago as well, but I think, what, the people that basically are there for the check, I don't, I know I beat up on them a lot and I should really stop doing that. I get it. You got to do what you got to do. You got to pay them good bills, honey. Okay. And sometimes it's good to have, especially depending upon where you came from and what your life was like even before you found that job, just making a good living. If you're a single mom, for instance, make the good living, make a good check, find a boss that respects you and you can respect, and make that check. But now where I guess I am to sort of, build upon even just that, what I hope to have created, and really what I was hoping to create more than anything from all of this is hope. I hope that makes sense, because a lot of people get into this role, get beat down on a daily basis, make a simple mistake. I'll never forget this. This motherfucker, sorry, my ex-boss literally had the balls to tell me, oh, you didn't, what was it? He's like, it was something like it was something so crazy, like you didn't dot an I or something, or it was something so ridiculous. And I'm sitting there like, so hold on. You're gonna tell me after 27 years of being in this seat, I'm older than you, boo boo, first of all. So we're gonna start there. Second, you know what I mean? You're literally gonna sit there and call me out over, an eye or something. It was just so ridiculous. And I'm like, okay, now I don't think you really want me to go into how many times I've saved your ass from, poor writing, bad grammar, poor context, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm like, I'm like, I'll take that because, hey, if I made the mistake, I'm happy to own up to it. But let me be real clear with you. If you're going to get nitpicky and weird like this is not going to work for me. I already left my life in California, moved to fucking Colorado, to basically help you out. And, you're actually not even, kind of, fulfilling your promises. So, that was like my come to Jesus to him. And he was just like, oh shit. Oopsies. He's like, don't quit. I'm like, no, this isn't about quitting, but I do need to let you know. Ridiculous is like this, unless you form it in the form of a joke. This will piss me off, like not beyond anything. And I'm like, I'm here for you. So why are you then trying to degrade me? I'm like, I could work circles around you. Like, you want to be real clear about that? You got, yes, I'm really proud of what you've done. And that's why I'm here. I want to be a part of your success. I want to help you grow and become successful, even beyond where you are right now. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to disrespect me over a fucking period, over an I. You know what I mean? Not gonna happen. So really that's, more than anything, and sorry for the diatribe, but that's really what I try to get across to people is, if you have to work, by all means, do it with a sense of, I don't want to say entitlement, but do it with a sense of entrepreneurship, meaning I know why I'm here. I'm here to help bring more success to you by offering a ridiculously comprehensive amount of, support. I'm here to read your people, translate it because you don't get it, and put it in a way that you understand exactly what's going on. I'm here to be the glue for all the people that are talking shit about you behind your back. I'm able to sort of reframe the conversation and empower them all without you even knowing that that shit is going on. See what I mean? So, when I talk, and I know I do it ad nauseum around executive assistants, when I talk about thinking of this entrepreneurially, that's how I look at it. Otherwise, I would be crazy. Otherwise, I would have stabbed my own self in the top of the head with like a rusty knife. You know what I mean? Because there's it's not the job just isn't set up in such a way where you will ever really sort of exact the kind of respect that you actually deserve. And my thing is, I'm fine with that. I'll be honest with you. It took me a long time to figure that out, but my thing is this. I don't seek your respect anymore. I'll get it just because I know what I do and I know the quality of work that I put out and I know the quality of service that I provide you. But guess what? The validation comes from me. I don't need your validation. All I need you to do is make sure that check cashes every 2 weeks. And when I come to you for a raise, I don't want to have a big ass long discussion. I'm going to give you everything you need to know in a certain way where guess what? It's a open and shut case. Like, yep, that totally makes sense. Yep, you totally did all those things. Wow, I should have paid you for that. Ooh, sorry I didn't give you, a pat on the head because you totally saved my ass right there, et cetera, et cetera. Don't really need all that. Don't need awards. Don't need, kudos at the fucking town hall, all that stuff. No, no, no. All I need you to do is make sure that check cashes. And then when I come to you for a raise, all you do is say yes, sign it, and keep it moving. You know what I mean? And I'll see you on Monday morning. This is not a discussion. This is a check off. So there you go. There's that little part of the diatribe. So how all that relates to entrepreneurship more than anything, and this is another reason why I'm really pushing it this year, especially in Tribe, is I believe this role is about to really, I've been saying this forever, but I honestly believe because of COVID, this role has now, or it's actually given businesses the argument or the ability to say, you know what? No, we're not going to do this the same way. We don't need the head count anymore. What we need is someone or some group that has the ability, that knows exactly, how to give us a certain level of service, and we pay them. It's easier for them to write one big fat check to a group of, let's say, think about it, 3 or 4 or 5 virtuals than it is to continue to have expensive as $100,000+ headcount on a daily basis when you're not even in the building. Let me be clear. Executives are struggling with ROI. Are they getting the same amount of work, attention, intention, etc., out of you with you being at home, with them being at home? They don't believe they are. So let's go ahead and write that in gold pen. They don't believe they're getting what they are paying for right now, at least from executive assistants, and especially executive assistants who are struggling. And there are many, Kimberly, I'm sure you could definitely attest to that with the people that are probably starting to come to you. Naomi, I know you can attest to that because, you are, I can't, I'm going, this year, you are my project. I just want to tell you that. I don't really want a business. It's not my thing. Oh, honey, I'm about to make you the world's greatest fucking coach on the planet especially for executive assistants. So we'll talk about that. That's on me because I'm going to drag you into the work group and everything else in between. So as well as you, Kimberly. So, but, really what it comes down to is, okay, if this is indeed the case, what does it look like for executive assistants going forward? And I honestly believe, and I just had this long conversation with the people at Base. I think you may have know of them, the people that do the software that basically underpins, and I think does it beautifully, underpins the whole executive assistant, communication loop between executives, executive assistants, and their teams. I think it's just the best software ever. Personally, I wish I would have discovered it because I'd be a very wealthy man right now. But the whole concept around this is I honestly think that now is the time for really good executive assistants, like three, four, five, six, or seven of them, to band together and actually create their own businesses. I honestly think it would be so much smarter for them to create a virtual business that is at a very high level because there's still a dearth. A lot of VAs right now are just task doers, and I get it. But at the same time, it's like, I think if you can offer something, and don't forget, entrepreneurship and how you make money is solving problems. The number one problems that a lot of executives are having right now isn't flights, isn't, yeah, to an extent, it's scheduling, but that's not their number one problem. Their number one problem is a lack of, like, someone to really research stuff well in advance of what it is that they're doing. Like hardcore research. And really the only people that can kind of do that to the degree and to the complexity that is needed are their executive assistants, because they understand who the players are. They understand the game. They understand the business. They understand, what kind of nuancy questions they need to prepare for and find the answers to well before those questions are even asked. So I am of this belief that, you know, top EAs in certain verticals should really just band together and create their own business, create their own virtual business at a high level and charge 100, 200, $300,000 for that amount of service, that quality and level of service. And obviously split that among each other, hire subs and everything else. But each one of those contracts, either on a monthly basis or, a quarterly basis or whatever else, that shit adds up real quick. Like a lot of you guys that are spending all this time, killing yourselves for 110,000, 120, $130,000 a year could potentially be making six, seven, $800,000 a year by yourself. Not obviously not being a VA by yourself, but by yourself in the sense that you could split that money up over time. Also, think about it too. There's a business case here, and sorry, this sounds like more of a fucking PSA, but you'll understand what I'm talking about, and I'll open this up for questions shortly. But what you also have to understand is businesses, like I said, really would much rather pay one big fat check and understand and have a contract around what exactly it is that they're paying for. Whereas with an executive assistant, headcount, you don't really know exactly what you're paying for. You have a general idea. You created, I mean, I hope this makes sense. You created a job description, but the job description is so fucking broad that you don't really know exactly what it is that you're paying for. All you know is that you can go to someone, dump on them, have them, extrapolate the information that they need, and then give you an output that may or may not be exactly what you're looking for, depending upon how well you articulate it, what your outcome or um, objective was. So, on the other side of that, if you went to an organization, then you now need to get your shit together in such a way where you can frame it about what it is that you're looking to actually achieve. And then the beauty of that is, the work that's done behind the scenes is all towards something very specific, a very specific outcome. So that then allows your team, et cetera, to sort of, pull each other, go to each other's strengths and be like, okay, I don't know shit about that. You do that part. I'll do this part. You do this part. Let's meet up. We'll talk about it. We'll get on a Zoom call. And before we present it, we'll make sure it's airtight. And then we'll present it back to the executive. The executive, if you think about it, and how they work on very contractual bases, right? So the contracts are very specific. The outcomes are very specific. Therefore, it's actually much, much easier and actually a little bit less work, believe it or not, to sort of, align your efforts to whatever that specific outcome is. And then when you produce that outcome, it's like, okay, cool. then let's go to the next. And you don't go to the next until you get paid for the first, right? So that's really, I'll be honest with you, I honestly think that a lot of companies, because of the hemorrhaging they've done financially, because of the, a lot of them are not going to be going back to work in a particular way. And Ro, you can attest to that. I was really sad to see that article, by the way, because I've actually been to that office. But really, it's just going to be a different paradigm and a different way that companies show up. And I honestly think executive assistants, especially the top ones, is like, hey, okay, everybody on this call, we have an opportunity here. If you want to make that play, to really set yourself up in such a way where you could literally, team up and probably make, I could easily see first year being, between $1 and $5 million, to split among 4, 5, 6 executive assistants. So, that for me is far more compelling than continuing to teach you guys how to fucking get your Excel sheets together and just all this dumb shit that I'm like, okay. So you also have to remember, it's, executives are getting crafty. They're kind of trying to figure things out for themselves, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of them are getting pressure from on high, probably the board, probably executives even above them, of you still got to cut costs. If we're not going to be back in the office, and that's kind of where our jam was, then you've still got to cut some headcount. And my thing is this: why not be preemptive and say, hey, here's the deal. I hooked up with 3 of my girls. This one is the executive assistant for the head of Mozilla. This one's the head of, the executive assistant for the head of Sixth Sense. This one's the head of, or the executive assistant to the head of Slack and all these other ones. We team together because we understand what executives actually need more than anybody. And we are now offering a service, so that if you think about it, the headcount issue is actually alleviated, because you don't have to carry, the headcount, the space literally being taken up in the office. You can totally downsize your office or get rid of your office completely. You're not paying for health insurance. You're not paying any of those perks because no one is in a physical office, et cetera, et cetera. So reallocating that money, only even a portion of it, like I could literally save you 25% if you were to literally get rid of all of your executive assistants right now and hire us as a service. And you can always hire someone back if you feel like you need additional help or whatever else. But if I were able to save you 25% right now and give you C-suite level assistance across many industries, and don't forget the aggregate networks of every single one of these women, for 10, 15, 20, 25 years in service. Would that not be compelling to someone that is trying to save money? See what I'm getting at? So yeah, the only scary part is making the jump, right? But that's where your work comes in. That's when you start reaching out to people at your level. That's when you start talking to people who are at that C-suite level, or who are just dope crankers. You know what I mean? Who you would be able to depend on. I've given you guys such an opportunity here just by having Tribe. Think about it. You could actually start a service, and I discussed this yesterday, and it was the biggest aha moment I've had in years. You could literally, everybody, what if all of us, all 5 of us, and I would even jump in on this one, what if everybody on this call right now jumped in and decided to start a business together, a VA business together at the highest level? We go after Google, we go after fucking Salesforce, we go after, Twitter, Square, all the biggies, and we just give them a proposition. How about this? Don't even take us on. Don't fire anybody, but take us on as that extra level of support. Now, what's the beauty about Tribe? We're global. We can offer a 24-hour, 24/7, 365 coverage, because we have amazing executive assistants in Australia, New Zealand, Europe, all of that. If we were able to pull together a comprehensive enough group, we could literally go and say, we can offer you something that you don't even have right now: 24/7, 365 coverage at the highest level. So while you can dump, when you do your 10 p.m., 11 p.m. dump, like they always do, that's covered. and it's ready for you when you wake up in the morning. And then you also have, support from the second you wake up through the end of your day. I'm sorry, what just happened? You see what I'm getting at? So that's really what, when I talk about mindset, this is really what I'm trying to get you guys to because I just don't, here's my thing. I don't want you to get screwed. And I have a funny feeling it's gonna happen. And when I say that, you know, companies are starting to make some, pretty broad sweeping changes, especially financially. And I just don't want you guys to be caught up in the bullshit, around like, oh, now you have to prove your worth. I was just talking to Carol in New Zealand, and they ended up, that first wave, right when COVID hit, and after like maybe a couple of months, and all the, the sort of mediocres were, kind of sitting around, just kind of like, oh my god, what do we do? Like, I'm so bored, like my exec doesn't even talk to me anymore. It's just like, girl, if you don't get to scramble it, what is wrong with you? So, and sure enough, they all got laid off. They kept, I think, of the 15 executive assistants they had, I think they kept six, and Carol was obviously one of the top ones. And isn't it funny? Most of I think she had we have three tribe members that work at that company. All three tribe members, no problem. In fact, they all got raises. Hello. So you see what I'm getting at? So again, I think I just don't want you guys, and I don't think that'll happen with you just because you're at such a level, but I don't want you to sort of be sort of caught in that tsunami. And the reason I say that, the tsunami isn't about necessarily who you are and what you actually provide, which is at a highest level, but we're all judged on the same tsunami sometimes, right? So, you unfortunately, even at the highest level, and it was the one thing that I hated when I was an executive assistant, is being looped in with all the people who are just kind of showing up. You know what I mean? Because, they're just like, oh, well, so and so's executive assistant, why are you here 10 hours, 10, 12 hours a day? So and so's assistant leaves at 5 o'clock every day, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, well, so and so's assistant ain't making the money I'm making, first of all, doesn't have the access that I have. And also, will probably be fired in about 3 weeks because I know what she does or doesn't do. So, all that said, I just want you to start thinking in much broader strokes here. Let's get out of this, if you're in it, and I doubt most of you are because I think you've kind of heard me enough. If you're in any sort of weird comfort zone, I'm gonna say get nervous, but let's start expanding what we could potentially do versus what we have. Yeah, obviously ride the horse as long as that thing is, alive and moving forward. Like, let's keep it real. But please set yourself up in such a way where you have a plan B, or at least you're thinking about a plan B or a plan C. And I feel it, and I the me, and I've got way too many projects going on already. But I almost want to just be like, F it. Let's just do Tribe Virtuals, and let's create it and see what happens. I can't run it just because I've got way too much shit going on, but there's plenty of you on this call. There's plenty of other people in Tribe who, we could all sort of rally together and potentially do something, and actually present something that is just different. Obviously, I'm a big believer too. I want to sort of convert all of the regular executive assistants into, chiefs of staff, junior chiefs of staff or whatever else. That to me feels like, if you're going to stay in position and if you're able to still be a headcount at a company, F being, a top EA, let's move you now into a different role and let that role encompass EA things, sure, but I want the title and I want the money for all that I'm doing. That's really what it comes down to. And I honestly think, I'm still weird on the whole chief of staff thing. I don't, I'm not the biggest believer in the whole administrative chief of staff, if you will. I think that in order to be really comprehensively, able to do that role, you have to have an operational component. And that's really one of the things that I want to teach during Tribe is, it's basically give you sort of like an MBA over the next year, more around the operational component, because I think we all have administrative on fucking lock. Like, let's be honest with you. There's nothing you can basically teach anyone on this call, and I'm looking, anyone on this call, anything more about administrative. Like, there's nothing. I dare you to try. But There are, very, very specific operational things that I think all of us need to know or bone up on or really, understand comprehensively, because that is when, once you get that, once you can go toe to toe, in a conversation with an executive and say, operationally, I don't honestly believe this is actually, there's no efficacy here because we tried this once before and this is why. Here are all the metrics to show exactly why it didn't work. Here's my opinion of why it didn't work. And here's an idea of how we can actually do this much differently based on what I've seen, being in the seat, and also being being in this company for such a time, and watching how you've bumped your head, Mr. Executive or Ms. Executive, blah 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 blah. So there's that. So okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Unmute and talk to me. Ask me questions. I'm sorry, this went really kind of tangential. I was really just only wanting to talk about entrepreneurship, but I think, I know you and I know we need to sort of, talk about the obvious and the also where we are right now, and see what that transition could potentially look like. I just gave you a prime example of one, but there are many others as well. And I'm curious to know what other ideas you guys are thinking of, entrepreneurial ideas, if at all. And also, like I said, as the purpose of this call, I want to kind of demystify it, because it's actually I'm telling you as an XEA, it is not that hard. You have all the skills, all the skills to do this right. Number one being organization. Like, I can't even tell you, it's not that difficult. All you have to do is land on an idea, figure out what problem it solves, obviously figure out what the efficacy of that problem solving is and how many people actually need it. And then also providing something for them, especially now. And let me be really clear. The thing now is creating programs, creating some sort of online resource that they can go to every single day, read through, learn through, or whatever, so that they can start replicating, what it is that they're learning, or at least building the intention, the habits, all of that stuff, so that over time, may not happen immediately, but over time, they will have learned and understood what your particular expertise was all about, replicate it to the best of their abilities, and then figure out ways to zhuzh it in such a way where they actually create their own success. You see what I'm saying? That's the number one thing right now. You want to know how to make actual money, is create a program. Create a program that teaches someone something very specific that they can replicate themselves successfully. And I promise you, you can make a ton of money. You're going to be seeing a lot of programs from Phoenix Norman. I'm doing one massive one for the work group. I'm actually going to be doing one for Tribe at the lower levels. Basically, going to, I think I'm calling it the super assistant. And it's not a money grab. It's literally, I'm going to go through, and the 5 years that I taught Mega U and Tribe U, I'm putting all that shit into a delicious 100% no BS program for all the people that are afraid to join Tribe because it's a cult, or Jeremy just teaches it better, and that's no hack on Jeremy, but like, he's actually way nicer than me. And his people are way nicer than my people, so to speak. So I get it. And he's got a program out. Like, think about it. Al Hussein, and I think Maggie's on it now, and everybody else and their mama, brilliant. And it's because the attention right now is online. And if you guys, entrepreneurially, if you guys are, really trying to figure out how to make some cash and have that cash be in perpetuity and sustained over as long as you can basically, put forth the information and the marketing, you can make quite a bit of money. And let's be honest with you, y'all know how EAs have been paying these, $2,000, $2,500, entry fees or registration fees for those conferences that were whack. You know what I mean? Imagine putting something out that is just so filled with good ass information and that lasts in perpetuity, which is awesome for the person who actually for registers. You're set. Like, you are set. The only thing you need to do is figure out how to market it. That's literally it. So anyway, talk to me.
Thank you, Phoenix. I always say Phoenix is the truth, and I'm so glad that I found you because
Child.
you already know the story. You helped me figure out my EA career, but also just as a human being.
Mhm.
Like I met with Cassandra and
Oh,
Kelsey
nice.
last night. Yeah, we
Fantastic.
finally did it. It's been like almost over a year since we've
Mhm.
actually caught up. But we were sort of talking about where we are personally and career wise. And I was just like, I really love Phoenix because he fucking gets it. He speaks the truth. And yeah, you're not for everybody, but a lot of us that have been in the game for a long time, like when I went to that random conference and you were there, you were the
Mhm.
only speaker that I resonated with because you
Right.
speak the fucking truth.
Mhm.
And I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. It's not this like PC bullshit that like has been fed to us our entire careers. It's actually the truth. And then obviously, I'm so glad that I signed up for your coaching
Mhm.
workshop because that helped me so much because I didn't come into 2020 considering a career transition, but it just became really obvious to me that like I've done it all.
You have.
Sorry,
Yes,
my
exactly. She said it too.
yeah,
She's like,
she's like,
"Yes,
yes,
honey." She's like,
uh,
"Preach, mama."
so like I've done it all after working for a founder is just like and I kind of just as an FY my boss of almost 3 years and former founder of our company that was acquired he left the organization so my whole
So he
world
so he decided not to come back?
yeah, it was best for him. He
Yeah,
just
he would think.
existentially, like going from a founder to being an associate VP was not his jam.
Yeah.
Like he can't deal with the politics, and I
Mm-mm.
totally understand because it's been a long time since I've been at a corporation, and
Mhm.
like I can play the game, but not everybody can. And after being a founder, I don't know how you can. So
Right.
he did the best he could. It just wasn't. It's just not where his heart is.
Yeah,
So I'm taking the opportunity. Like I'm supporting directors right now. Oh my
it's fine.
god. But it's
It's money.
fine.
It's money.
It's
Oh,
fine
shit,
because
especially right now.
it worked out for me because they actually fired an EA that they were asking me to mentor because they don't know how to hire EAs. And I
Right,
would have told them from the get go, she's not going to last.
right.
And she didn't make it a year. And because my boss left, then I was able to fill in. And they already know my work ethic.
Mhm,
They know that I'm worth the money. And
mhm.
because and I'm also supporting salespeople, but
Right,
like
oh,
they need to meet their
sorry.
quotas,
Yeah.
So like I had the conversation with HR. I was like, look, I don't know if this is going to work for me long term. You know
Mhm.
my level, but I
Yep.
know these sales pay people
Mhm.
need somebody consistent that's going to help them close
Yep,
and is going to help them meet their quotas.
yep.
And I'm going to do my best to make this work because it's like I'm making the salary
Yeah,
already,
good.
have the benefits.
Yep.
It's a stable company.
Mhm.
They haven't laid anybody off. They've
Great.
slowed down hiring, but they're still hiring. And plus, we're going to be working from home for who knows how long, which gives me the opportunity to work on my coaching practice.
Exactly.
And, so I'm using it. And that's kind of to your point. Like, I was talking to the ladies last night and I was like, Phoenix is genius because all of us at this level, we're so much more intelligent and
Mhm.
accomplished than we've been given credit for
Oh,
because
yeah.
usually the people that we work with have no idea what we do. And I was like, but Phoenix knows. So all of these workshops make sense because it's like we haven't been given the credit that we deserve. And it's been hard for us to think beyond who we're supporting.
Right.
We're making everybody else successful and pre-COVID when you're at the office and traveling and all of these things, I never had time to sit down and to think like, is this really what I want to do long term? Because I
Right.
was worried about keeping my boss
Right.
successful and
Right.
focused. And we were traveling and doing this and doing that. And I did love my boss. So it was
Mhm.
like, I didn't really need to think about it. I was like,
Yeah.
I get to work with one of my best friends and like
Yeah.
I'm helping him and he's helping me.
Mhm.
And, I'm super grateful that I took the opportunity to think about the next step
Mhm.
because late summer when he told me he likely wasn't going to come back
Mhm.
and he didn't know it was next and he didn't know if I could go with him, I was like, it's all good.
Yeah.
I'm pursuing becoming a certified life coach.
Mhm.
I'm like, I've got one foot in, one foot out. I don't personally ever want to interview for another EA job in my life because
Don't need to.
after working for you, there's nowhere for me to go. And personally, I've considered becoming a chief of staff and other things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just done with this corporate world personally.
Yeah.
For everybody, it's not right. Some people might want to pivot
You
to
don't need to
different
make
roles.
excuses. We hear
But
you.
for me, I just was like, being an executive assistant was actually the most interesting role I could have ever had.
Yep.
That's why I chose it.
Yep.
And then, especially with my boss that just left the organization, because he's one of the few executives that treated me like an equal, that actually wanted my opinion
Mhm.
and my advice, and actually looked at me and was like, well, you've been an executive assistant for 20 years. You tell me.
Right.
Like, one of the only times in my career that I was treated like an equal, he gave me the opportunity to learn. And I told him this. I was like, I feel like I've been in business school for the last couple of
You
years.
have.
Yeah, I've been doing the EA stuff for you, but because we developed a very close relationship, I learned so much about what it really is like
Right.
to be a founder and to be at that level, and the ins and the outs and the successes and the pitfalls.
Mhm.
And it's so rare that somebody like that trusts you.
Mhm.
And so when you launched your thing, I was like, I don't even know what I want to do, but I know I need to do
At
something.
least hear it. Right.
Yeah. And obviously, I was thinking something totally
Oh,
different
and
than
I
what you did.
love that. That's
Yeah.
why you will eventually be a case study because I'm just like, isn't it
Yeah.
funny?
And
It doesn't matter. It's just any idea, just
that's
something.
what I was telling the ladies. I was like, I didn't come out of the workshop thinking I was going to be a life coach, but the work that I did with Phoenix is what helped me to then be like, oh, shit, why didn't I ever think about being a life coach? This
Yep.
is something I actually already do.
And you're passionate about, you love, and you know
Yeah.
you're good at it.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean? So,
now it's like I find motivation for my 9 to 5 job because I'm
mhm.
building something else.
Mhm.
And I have the time to do that. And
Yeah.
I feel now that I've done it and I've launched my Instagram and I'm just kind of out there and owning it,
Mhm.
I feel less disappointed by my role.
Yeah. I
You
that's
know, like
exactly well put, by the way.
because the times where I'm like doing the mundane things that I need to do for my job, I'm like, yeah, but like this has helped me pay for my coaching
Mhm.
certification, and I'm still taking advantage of all the things that are provided by my employer
Yep.
so that I don't have to rush into anything.
Exactly.
But I just think that what I love about what you do is that like the all of the high level EAs and accomplished EAs that are part of Tribe,
Mhm.
we're, we can do so much more than we think
Anything.
we can
Like
do.
literally anything. I mean, I really want people to realize this, and especially you guys on this call. I'm no different than any one of you. Like no different. I was damn good at my job as you are. Was I perfect? No. Did I make mistakes? Fuck yeah. You know what I mean? But I was able to also provide a certain level of value based on the insane life that I've had, and the insane network that was my strength was my network.
Hmm.
My bosses could rely on the fact that if they needed something, I could make a phone call and make it happen because my fucking resume is Swiss cheese. I'm everywhere on my resume. But that was by design because I
Hmm.
wanted to get my hands on as many different industries as much as possible, build a network that was, really because I understood the power of network really early in life.
Yeah.
So, it allowed me to sort of provide them something that they couldn't find in the run of the mill executive
Mhm.
assistant. And yeah, whatever my deficiencies were in certain respects, my strengths were so much more valuable to them that they were just like, you know what, it is what it is, like that one, two Huey and Dewey at Square who were just like, we really wanted the hot chick with the big rack. But,
Um,
but your network and, even in the conversation that you and I had was, yeah, we gotta hire this kid. He knows like fucking everybody. So I was
yeah.
like, all right, whatever.
And then I think the only other thing that I mentioned to the ladies last night was, and kind of like you kind of mentioned it too, like executives do what they can,
Mhm.
but they don't value high level EAs
No,
quite enough in the business.
no.
And the best example is right, like my boss sold his company at the deal close at the beginning of 2019.
Mhm.
Every single executive on our leadership team bought $1 million homes after the deal closed. Not me, not me. Sure, I got a little something,
Yeah, a little something, something, but
but my life didn't change,
no,
and I was
shouldn't.
considered part of the leadership team, but it became very, very clear when I saw them all buying brand new $1,000,000 homes in
Homes
the Bay
and
Area, and
yeah,
I was like, "Oh, okay." And I just like, like it's nobody's fault. That is the way that the business
it's set
typically
up.
runs.
Yeah.
And I got a little something, but it
Mhm.
wasn't comparable to the
You
value that I
weren't
actually provided leading
exactly,
up to selling that company.
exactly.
Um, and I think that I kind of tucked it away. But I think that also was the motivation that, like, I'm done making other people
Rich.
millionaires.
Yeah.
'Cause all of the bosses that I've worked for in
Mhm,
my 20 years
mhm.
have all become millionaires, and I've been doing this for 20 years, and I am not one of those millionaires.
Not yet, and
Not
that's
yet,
like and that's
but
exactly right.
I don't see I don't see, that becoming something I can accomplish staying
I
in.
do, I just don't think you're chasing the money. There's a
I'm
difference.
not.
But I think easily you could make $1,000,000. Anyone on this call could make
Yeah.
$1,000,000, and I can show you how to do that, to be honest with you. So, but, really what it comes down to is, you're right, and I had that situation a couple of times as well. That's why I started creating, parachute clauses in my contracts, because it's like, I'm so sick of getting fucked over. I'm so sick of, like, an executive leaving, and it takes me, Black, gay, male, 6 months to find a job that's comparable to what I'm making at that particular company. So if like so I that's really what it kind of came down to for me, was just like, how many times can you make someone wealthy? And I mean, I remember when I was at Boom, I almost single-handedly put that entire, you know, Series B roadshow together, because I'd done it 3, 4 times before. And using all of my contacts, I was getting meetings with these guys with the big fat checkbooks, because they were just like, "Oh, Phoenix, that's where you landed? Oh my God, what are you doing in Colorado? Like, and where have you been?" You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these kids that ended up signing on it was $100 million Series B. A lot of these kids were the ones that I basically raised when we were in investment banking all of those years, or when I was in investment banking all those years, and they were junior analysts, and I was saving their ass on a nightly basis, making changes, pointing out errors and all this other stuff in their pitch books, so that they could eventually become VCs, and start handing out big, multi-million dollar checks. So you're right, Kimberly. That's exactly the issue that I had with it. And another reason why I was just like, okay, at some point you need to leverage all of that. You need to leverage it for yourself, so that you can actually make some money yourself, and not as a revenge play necessarily. Mine was, but more from the sense of, okay, it's almost a responsibility. It's how I kind of look at it. Like, if you've been given this wonderful bird's eye view of how your execs move, how, who they commiserate with, how business is actually being done, and really what their mindset is, and kind of what their objective is. Their objective is some sort of payout. It's always that way. And you are a player in that. Doesn't mean that they're going to turn right around and do the right thing and give you part of that big fat check that they get. All they're trying to do is, and I don't want to say use you. It's not, I don't honestly think it's a purposeful using of their executive assistant in order to achieve an objective. It's not that at all. They just, when you think about money and success, and also the pressures of being an executive at that level, with a family, with big bills, and also the peer pressure, let's be honest, you're really only thinking about achieving the objective. So all the humanity goes to the wayside. That's really what it comes down to. It's not like a conscious fuck you. It's more of, they just forgot that there's other people that helped you get to where you are, boo boo. And if we don't remind them along the way, guess what? They're just gonna go and buy their $1,000,000 houses, buy their Teslas, and be like, Aren't you glad that you were on a winning team?" It's like, motherfucker, no, I'm not glad I'm on a winning team. Where's my money? You know what I mean? So that's really
And
what.
I feel like I'm one of the lucky
Mhm,
ones. I think finding an executive that actually respects
mhm,
you and what you have accomplished and treats you like a human is really rare.
Yep.
And like I had the opportunity to like, my former boss now is like, he's like family now. Like
Mhm.
that's kind of the trenches that we've been through. And I
Love that.
like what I was able to learn from him. It's not like he taught me directly, right?
Right.
I just was
No.
like at his side learning everything that I
Yep.
could.
Taking good notes.
That was invaluable.
Mhm.
And like we had the and I was like, none of this is your fault. This is the way the business is typically
This is the
structured for
business.
EAs.
Yeah.
But I think to a certain, and that's like the last time I met with him in October, we had an opportunity to meet. And like we've had very emotional calls because I'm like, I know this is like the end of an era,
Mhm.
and like having a team like this is really rare.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that I had the opportunity. But I told him, I said, you know, you changed my life
Mhm.
just by believing that I could, because he was the first executive that just gave me responsibilities that
Love it.
I had never had before. And he's like,
Love it.
I know you'll figure it out.
Figure
I
it out.
trust you.
Mhm.
And so he gave me the opportunity to challenge myself in the business I was already in, to do things I had never done,
Love it.
which then shifted my state of mind so that when your workshop came about, I was like, I can do this. I don't know how, it's scary, it's different, but for the first time in my life,
Mhm.
I told him, I said, you helped me realize that I actually have options.
Yeah.
And that was so, and he was just being who he was. And I
That's
got
it.
very blessed to meet an executive at his level that actually has a heart
Right.
and actually treats people like human beings. It's
Mhm.
very rare. But that business relationship was so powerful for me because it helped me realize like I'm so capable. And yeah,
Right.
this has been great, but it also helped me just to like accept that like I feel like it's just like the synchronicity of everything that happened for me
Mhm.
this year. Like you launched the coaching workshop. I
Mhm.
signed up for it having
Mhm.
no freaking idea what was going to come out of it.
Right.
By the time he and I talked at the end of summer,
Mhm.
and he was like, I don't think I'm coming back. I don't think I'm taking you with me. And
Mhm.
he was a mess because we have a close relationship.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's good. I already
You're
have,
like, I'm good.
I actually have another plan.
Right.
I'm moving out of this. And
Mhm.
part of that is because of our working relationship, that
Mhm.
you helped me realize that I have other
You
options.
do.
And like, so things weren't 1,000% perfect because nothing ever is. But I just think that like, it's really important for us to realize and to look back
Mhm.
at what we've accomplished,
Yep.
and to realize that even for the companies and executives that didn't give us credit or acknowledge
Mhm.
that we were part of their success, we
Mhm.
have to acknowledge that ourselves to
Exactly.
build that confidence that like, oh, I've been there before. I've been in a situation where I was thrown into the deep end of the pool, and like I was talking to the ladies last night. I was like, all of us pretty much when we started, because of the level that we're
Mhm.
at, there was no like real handbook on how to be
Never.
a top level
Not
executive
in one of
assistant.
my jobs.
Yeah.
Not
And like
one.
I've been so lucky that at certain companies in the beginning of my career, there were senior executive assistants that took me under their wing. And
Mhm.
like you said, they were there as a resource. I still had to do the work,
Yep.
but I took every single opportunity that was presented to
Mhm.
me. And now I can look back, and it builds my confidence in those moments where I'm like, can I really do this? I'm like, ugh, how many jobs have I been at where I was like, I have no idea, and I figured it out and I killed it.
Right.
And now I'm 20 years in.
Yeah.
And if I can have a successful 20-year career with all of the accomplishments that I've
Mhm.
done, I can do something outside of that structure too.
Exactly. For the rest of your life. And leverage all of that and that information, the network that you've created, never forget that, et cetera, to really build a business that could actually scale quite quickly. That's another thing you guys have to realize too, is every single business, every single project that I've sort of dived into has scaled very quickly. And I love that just because it allows me to, you know, really focus on like very specific parts of it in order for it to grow. And also I like the challenge of making it profitable in the quickest time possible. You know what I mean? So
Mhm. Hey, Phoenix. I have a
hey,
quick question before I
of
have to jump
course.
off
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
yeah, no
Hey,
worries, no worries.
so we have the skills to be entrepreneurs. We
Easily.
have, just from experience and everything else. But I think a lot of sometimes it has to do with a mindset that you just don't think that you're able to do it. So are there traits, do you think, or specifics that an entrepreneur, is there an entrepreneurial mindset, and how do you develop that, or how do you really work that to, you know, to match it with your skills?
I'll only speak to that from the specific, the specific, what would you call it, perspective of an executive assistant. I think what it is you just need to make the flip. There's a very easy switch that will eventually happen where it's less of being of service and more of being,
Right.
how do I solve a problem that benefits me
Okay.
completely, not my
Mm-hmm.
executive. And that was the hardest thing for me to get out of was,
Right.
getting out of this servitude, not in a, a negative way
Right.
necessarily, but out of this sort of service mentality, the service heart. Like
Mm-hmm.
I used to hate when Al Hussein would say that shit on my channel, but the service heart, I get it. It's in there. That will never change. It
Right.
also doesn't change when you become an entrepreneur. That's just
Mm-hmm.
baked into who you are in your DNA. But what does need to change is how you approach your role. For instance, the one I talk about, that entrepreneurial thing, it's not about the executive per se. It's more about the business and your support.
Right.
How does that link to the success of the business in general? Yes, you do have
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one support issues and you have to sort of figure out a relationship that works. But I think we also put way too much in slightly different from Kimberly because she had a very, you know, excellent boss who got it.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I think we put too much emphasis on trying to perfect that relationship. No, no, no. You
Mm-hmm.
need to perfect the communication to a point where you're able to still move the train down the tracks. I don't give a fuck about
Right.
half of the people that I supported. Didn't even like most
Right.
of them, to be honest with you.
Right.
But what I did appreciate was the fact that we were aligned with regard to how the business is going to move forward, how what it is that you're giving me maps to an objective of some sort. And I think once you
Mm.
get in the mindset of what is it, it really comes down to being okay with being selfish. I mean, I've been saying that
Mm.
for what, the last 2-3 years now. You have to
Right.
be okay with being selfish. And the funny thing is, there's nothing actually selfish about wanting to, I mean, given you have one life and you're the only one living it, that's not selfish. That's really just kind of, fulfilling the prophecy of your life. And I don't
Right.
think we do that. That's the one thing about this role that drives me fucking crazy is that we're
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling the prophecy of everybody else's lives except our own. We don't go to the
Right.
doctor. Look at what Deanna's
Right.
going through, having someone
Mm-hmm.
talking down to you and like
Yeah.
basically bullying you and shit like that.
Yeah.
How did we get there? She's a brilliant woman,
Right.
so now we have to recraft her and, kind of get her into a space where it's just like, no, this is about me now. I don't give a shit about this
Mm-hmm.
company. I don't give a shit about you. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really what it comes down to. It's not easy, but I think really the easiest way to do it is to find something that you're passionate about and that for a fact solves a problem and that for a
Right.
fact you could do the rest of your life. And then just
Right.
start working it. Just start working it.
Right.
And then you'll get it. Kimberly can attest to that.
Yeah.
Once
Mm-hmm.
you'll see it and you'll be like, well, wait a minute, I can totally do this. I've got
Right.
a fantastic network. I could literally pimp my network right now and get my first 3 to 5 clients.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad you're reaching out on Tribe for your life
Mm-hmm.
coaching. Absolutely. That's why I created Tribe. So I'm trying to give you guys not only the sort of mental fortitude to just try it, but
Mm-hmm.
also Tribe is really, and I'll be honest with you, look at Jeremy. Jeremy poaches everything from Tribe. And I have no issue with that because I've
Mm.
always said from day one when he joined, because he actually told me, he's like, we're competitors. Is that going to be weird? I'm like, no, dude, because this is still the EA community. So,
Mm-hmm.
we will feed each other however we can. So, I'm hoping that Tribe provides the opportunity for you to not only learn the mindset and to just try it, but also be
Mm-hmm.
able to leverage every single member of this tribe so that you can, get a client or get a referral or, ask for, a reference on your LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm getting at? Because
Mm-hmm.
inevitably that just continues a snowball going down the hill
Right.
so that you get to the point where you're confident in what it is that you're doing and for a fact that it will work just because you've done all the work. You've done all
Right.
the work for someone else and helped someone else get rich. Why not
Right.
you? You deserve it probably more than they did, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because of the situation, because of that work hierarchy, um, you don't get to reap the spoils, and that's not fair. And in the
Right.
grand scheme, it's not fair. So but again, it still comes down to you. Like, you're the only one that can
Yeah.
actually, go off on the tangent, or side hustle it until it becomes a thing, and then you can be like, dose. So
Right.
I also wanted to just add, because I think it's really relevant. When I joined the coaching workshop that
mhm,
Phoenix, I did not know. I was just like, I know I need to find something else. I
something.
can feel it in my soul.
Hmm.
This is exactly what I need to get over my fears.
Hmm.
And I know that for me, I never thought it was an option, but the best step that I took is to be like, I don't have to have it all figured
You
out.
know.
What I need to
Mm.
do is to make that commitment to myself that I'm going to take the time to actually figure it out. When I came out of
Right.
Phoenix's workshop, I was like, I'm going to get into politics
You were totally over on
because
another tangent. It was awesome.
yeah, it's like I'm a communications major with an emphasis in political rhetoric, and I'm very passionate about activism and
Hmm.
politics,
You still
and
can be.
Mhm.
that's kind of like what I was like, okay, well, maybe this is what I should focus on. And I came out of the workshop not like necessarily with a business plan, just like a really great idea. And I was like, well, I need to do research first.
Hmm.
Now that I have a focus, and I spent months like going to webinars and figuring out what organizations I felt aligned with my values. And I
Hmm.
had a certain plan, and then I kind of sat with it for like a month, and I
Hmm.
was like, let me just sit with this.
See how it feels.
And things started to slowly come together. And I really had an like, I had an opportunity. I was asked by Sean Galanos, who's a relationship coach
Hmm.
for the Love Drive, and I've done some of his workshops. He asked me to lead a workshop with him.
Mm.
And we had a call,
Right.
and I'm like, yeah, thanks for reaching out, because I feel like maybe life coaching is actually what I need to pursue.
Hmm.
And it was just like it all came to be together, and I was like, why did I never even think about this? So like I came out of the I went into the workshop, no idea. And of course, what
Mhm.
I needed was Phoenix to ask me those hard questions and be like, no, I need you to focus and like come up with a right. And I came out of it and I had an idea. And then I was in a place where I could very easily pivot out of that and be like, oh, this is where my heart is.
Hmm.
um
Mhm.
so I think that the fear and what had always sort of been my blocker is I felt like I had to have it all figured out. And
Right.
just starting and just making the commitment to like, let me figure this out, let me figure out where my
Mhm.
values are, what my passions are, and how I
Right.
can make that actually align with what I'm doing for a living without the pressure of like, oh, I have to have it all figured out. Because like for me, I
Mhm.
just started working with a finance coach this
Hmm.
week because that's my weak point.
Nice.
Right, I'm used to the regular salary. My financial budget is I don't check my account until payday, and I know
Mhm.
that's not sustainable if I'm going to work for myself. Now,
No.
I'm in a
Mhm.
good place. I paid off all my debt this year.
Good.
I'm in a good place. And so like I was like, okay, now that I've figured out what I'm going to do,
Hmm.
I need to start building those financial
Team.
habits
Yeah.
and get over my fears.
Yeah.
And also, I'm just starting. So like I don't have to have all of it. I just need to start.
Yep.
And so like I think
Mhm.
if you don't have to have it all figured out. You
Yeah.
don't even really need to like I went into the workshop, I had no idea. And now I'm like,
Mm.
I launched my Instagram account.
Hmm.
I'm
Good. By
graduating
the way, I
to
love it.
certified life coach in February.
So good.
Like I already have the tribe community. I have
Right.
all of the contacts in my professional network.
Hmm.
And I'm starting slow, right? Like I'm not trying to do anything big right now because I still have my job and I'm
Yeah.
figuring it out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I'm taking those steps and I've made the commitment and I have momentum towards a bigger goal. So like I think the
Right.
hardest part is starting.
Yeah.
Right.
It is. But I also want to mention this, and this is another thing, a big, big thing to keep in mind. You don't have to do everything yourself.
Mm.
The number one thing
Right.
that will make you really, really successful in today's entrepreneurship is
Mhm.
delegation. You delegate everything. If there's people everywhere who are experts at whatever else for a fee. My thing is what
Mm.
gets entrepreneurs in trouble, including me originally, but now I don't do shit. I do, but I don't. Is you delegate, you find those experts, you build that ninja team of people who are experts at what they do, and you
Mm.
figure out a way with through whatever your pricing model is or whatever else to be able to pay for those people and still make a profit. That's the
Mm.
number one thing, because I think what really sort of makes executive or entrepreneurs sort of fail is they feel they need to sort of master everything and then hand it off. No,
Right.
no, no, you
Right.
do not. You all you need
Right.
to do is have a good, solid idea that solves a problem. And then you start hiring. And when I say hiring, don't forget, the Philippines is like the world would end if the Philippines fell into the
Yeah.
water. It would literally end overnight. Not even kidding you. There's so many team members in the Philippines that have all things digital on lock, like all things
Mm.
digital. So, the company that I work with now, the Attention Seeker, we have a massive team in the Philippines that can do anything. And it's great because we can
Mm.
just pay them to do it instead of us sitting there like, oh, how do we do sales of ClickFunnels? And who's gonna, spend 6 hours trying to learn, this, and I ain't got time for that. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that's really what it comes down to. It's really just leveraging that your ability to sort of choreograph all of the players in order to get to the
Mhm.
objective. Entrepreneurship
Right.
is no different. That's why, especially entrepreneurship right now, is easier than ever to get right. Easier
Mhm.
than ever. Because all you need to do is have a good idea, have a little bit of cash at hand so that you can pay a few people or whatever else, come up with a model that's successful enough that can pay you in perpetuity, and then you hire out the people that need to actually do the work.
Mm.
I'm not
Makes
even
sense.
kidding you. It's so easy. Like it is so easy. And I'm going to show you because I'm working on several projects right now that I'm building for the program that I'm also creating for the work group. But I'm building a couple of things, and one in particular that I've been obsessed with and have not slept because it's all I think about and do, where it's I want to show you how to get literally from zero, which is where I started, to like a certain number of subscribers or a certain number financially in the space of next year. And it's going to be a pretty decent number at the end of the year, because it took me a while to figure it out, but I'm like, oh my god, this is what I love this. I'm passionate about it. This is I can leverage actually my musical career from all of those years ago. All of that stuff leads into this. And so again, but a lot of it is all, like, I'd say 85% of it is outsourced. I'm doing 15%. You know what I mean? So that's, truly, dude, that's all it comes down to is what's the idea? If you have an idea and it's something that's, that you're passionate about, that solves a problem in the marketplace, and hopefully solves a problem for a lot of people, not just a, subset, then it's just a matter of putting the pieces together, putting the team members together that can actually bring your vision to life. And then that's it. And then you worry about marketing, which you can pay someone for. You worry about creating new ideas, that's all on you, but then you have a team that can actually bring it to life. You see what I'm getting at? So that's really um the new entrepreneurship, if that I keep talking about, because it's so much easier than it used to be. Oh my god. So there you go. Naomi, you have been quiet. She's just like,
For me, this is just like as I've said, it's not my area that I'm personally planning on going to unless you drag the horse to
I
water
am.
and
I
thirsty.
I will.
To use your phrase from earlier.
Exactly.
But it's just it's a way to become more informed on something is to participate in stuff like this. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
so that's I'm just absorbing.
I love
And
it. And I love that too, because that was the secret of my success, was observing, and really just sort of like taking it all in, making notes, figuring out if something resonates. Bye, Judith. Figuring out if something resonates and running with it and trying it. If it worked, great. If it didn't, that's fine. But I learned something new from it. And my thing is, I, with you particularly, and that's why, sorry, I was calling you out earlier, is I honestly think you have, a coaching career that I think you could rival 90% of the people that are out there right now, like easily, with a little bit of development, because again, like, the one thing I've learned about you, Naomi, is you've got it all. Like, that's why I'm glad that both of you are online, actually, is you've got a fire in you Maybe that comes from being in Chicago, but you have like that fire, but you also have like an empathetic side that isn't whiny. Like I don't see you suffering whiners very, very well. Like I don't, but you've got that good combination where people trust you and they listen to you and they follow you. And I think that you can't really teach that. I don't know how else to put it. So now it's a matter of, okay, how could I potentially leverage that into either a coaching business or an international speaking business, because we will be traveling again and I would get you on every stage that I've been on.
Mhm.
You know or developing a program that is really about very specific things to women, for instance, or to executives, in a certain vertical, or at a certain level, or whatever else. The one thing I love about executive assistants is we all have very unique perspectives on the same problem, right? Which
Mhm.
automatically gives us a lane of our very own that no one else can tread in. So my lane, as you know, I'm just like the finger wagger, you know what I mean? And like trying to yank people out of, that sort of what they've been told the entire time. But I think each of you have like your own very special take on something that we still have not solved. And my thing is, if the problem hasn't been solved, there's always the opportunity to solve it in your own special way. Doesn't mean like the global problem is going to be solved, but for a very specific group of people who will become your fans and your followers and your disciples, if you will. They will come and they will buy absolutely everything that you do because they know it's coming from a pure place. And they know that every subsequent thing that you put out is going to be truth, just like the other 2, 3, 4, 5 things that they paid for. See what I'm getting at? So
Mhm.
that's kind of the hard part, is making that shift of, I know I've got things to say and all that, charging money for it, and, the potential perceptions and all this other stuff. Let that shit go. You know what I mean? My thing is, that amount of years that you sat in the seat and the amount of abuse, low key and not so low key, that you've taken over those years that have sort of shaped these opinions and this expertise. You have every right to monetize that in a way and share it, with as many people who want to listen. So that's really all I'm getting at, especially with you, Nay, is because I don't want you to think, always trying to drag me into being an entrepreneur. It's not that at all. I think you're already an entrepreneur. You're just not capitalizing on the actual entrepreneur part,
Mhm.
you know?
No, I
So
can see that.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
it. And my thing is, it doesn't even have to be, super deep or crazy or, feel in the least way smarmy. Literally, all you would have to do is record what it is that you spout on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Put it in a nice, neat little stack. Same with you, Kimberly, and put it out to the public, who are more than happy because they know you already. Luckily, either through tribe or whatever else, or your brand that you're already creating and hopefully building. They already know that you're the truth. And then it's just a matter of charging for some access to you. That's it.
Well, it's just also like when you have a really solid reputation
Mhm.
in your career,
Mhm.
you don't really realize how powerful that is until you actually start leveraging it.
Until you leverage it.
And to Phoenix's point, right? Like that's why I was attracted to Phoenix, because he was saying the things that nobody else was saying. And I was at the end of my rope and I was like, I don't know if I can keep doing this.
Mhm.
Like, what's the freaking point? And he lit a fire under my
Mhm.
ass, which led me to the best boss and the best job that I ever had, which now has led me to completely pivoting to a totally different career that I never anticipated, never even once thought. Like, when I look back at my life, actually, the life coaching thing has
Mhm.
come up for me quite a lot. And it actually came up when I was in university and I thought it was a fucking joke. I was
Right.
like,
Because
what
there's
I
a
mean? Like
everybody's a life coach right now.
I got my degree from university in 2007.
Mhm.
So like especially at that time,
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is a life coach? That sounds like some bullshit. And I was like, I'm gonna become an EA because I can make a shit ton of money and I'm not actually responsible for anything. And
Chasing the cash. Exactly.
I just like, it wasn't really until I like Phoenix lit a fire under my ass. I got this amazing job with an amazing person, and I started to realize my worth by just like, oh my God, I have all this experience and I'm learning all this stuff. And then it just like he launches. So it's kind of just been this, I've been ready, and
Mhm.
Phoenix has been there with the next thing.
Mhm.
And it's always been intimidating, but I know that for a long time, that's what I've been searching for is
Mhm.
like, I, for EAs, we're out there on our own. There's like, it's not like a sales person that
Not at
like
all.
trained or engineering where there's like a very like succinct and understandable roadmap for like your career and
Mhm.
how to do that. Like being an EA is a very, and I don't think we give ourselves credit for how creative of a
Mhm.
role it is. And
Daily.
yeah, and how quickly we are able to pivot
Mhm.
and to roll with the changes.
Any change.
Yeah, and it's like once I started to realize that like, oh,
I
I'm
already do this.
yeah, like I already do this. And like, I already knew that from my 20 years that tying myself to the success of an executive was not sustainable. So that's what I mean. Like the synchronicities have just been amazing this year because it's like I already had a plan B when my boss came to me, and it was really hard for him to be like, I think I'm gonna leave
Mhm.
and I don't think I'm gonna take you with me.
Mhm.
And that was very hard for him.
Right. And
But
you're like,
I was okay. I
oh,
was like,
I'm
guess
just like,
what? I
bye. I'm good.
I'm pivoting out, so don't even worry about me. I appreciate the time we had.
Mm.
We're always going to be close. Like
Mhm.
we've been through the trenches together, and working with you provided me the confidence I needed to actually take the step to do what's
Mhm.
right for me now.
Yeah.
So, like, I just think we don't give ourselves enough credit. And it's like, I spent so much of my life helping other people
Mhm.
become successful, and I haven't.
And not getting paid for it,
And because of how things work,
as you should.
yeah. And because, like, because of how the world was
Mhm.
as an executive assistant pre COVID, I just never had the time.
Right.
Right. And now, like, that I'm sure, like, there are so many awful things about what's happening. Yes.
Yeah.
But the silver lining of having a steady job and being able to work from home is that it's
Mhm.
given me the time to really reflect and to be like, I'm over this. I'm over wiping other people's asses,
Right.
making them millionaires while I just live paycheck to
Mhm.
paycheck. Like I already know, like my first goal is to be able to meet my current standard of living
Mhm.
in my coaching practice. That's
Yeah.
because that's a great baseline.
That's a great baseline.
I
I did the exact same thing when I
like
started Tribe, or
exactly I can
it's
make
like, I just wanna make the money that I'm making now. That's it.
because right, my lifestyle right now is
Mhm.
great. It could be
Mhm.
better, but like,
Yeah.
I'm in a rent control apartment in San Francisco and I love
Okay.
my apartment,
Right.
and like I can do things I want to
Mhm.
do. And that's like my goal for
Yeah.
like becoming having my own coaching practice. I want to maintain my current lifestyle. And
Mhm.
like I met with the finance coach and I was like, yes, I want to like start being more intentional with my investing.
Yep.
I want to
Good.
be making passive income.
Mhm.
So I've started to set those goals, but that like it's December
Right.
and I just started doing this and I started working with Phoenix on this. What it was like late
Man,
summer,
yeah, it's
something
September.
like
Yeah.
that, with July, I
Yeah.
think July. So like it's taken me months to like start getting and so that's what I mean. I think that like it feels very intimidating because there are a lot of pieces, but you only have to start, you just take one step
Mhm.
in front of the other and it slowly starts. And that's how right, that's how people build their businesses. That's how our bosses have built their businesses.
Easily.
Like my boss who's now a millionaire that never needs to work again, but he will because that's what he does.
Exactly. Because
uh
it's not about the money,
yeah,
that's one thing you'll learn. It's not
he
really about the money,
he
It
lived
is
in a
to an extent.
he lived in a crappy apartment
Mhm.
and he had terrible credit and was living paycheck to paycheck. And like I literally remember before the deal closed,
Mhm.
we were in the process of moving to our new office at the time, and he was like, do we have any like extra coffee tables, because I
I
don't
don't
want
have
to
anything in
buy.
my house.
He was like, I don't want to buy anything until the deal closes and I become a millionaire. And then I was with him last year when he bought his $1 million condo,
Love it.
and he was obviously able to pay for it with cash,
Yep.
but he had to because it was so hilarious. I have like ridiculously good credit,
Mhm.
and he had shit credit, and it didn't matter that he was a millionaire.
It doesn't. The funny thing is, most of my bosses have horrible credit, by the way.
Yeah.
I think
And
I
so
had
like,
two that had like, one was like high sevens, but I don't think I ever had a boss with a, an 800 plus credit rating. They were all like
yeah, and it's
6.5,
they're com-
7,
they're like
2.
comfortable taking the risk
Yeah,
because at the end of it is freedom.
exactly.
And so seeing all of that like with him
Mhm.
and like knowing his story and like how hilarious it was waiting for the deal to close, that he was like, I need a free coffee table. Like he really worked his ass off,
Mhm.
and he wasn't living the high life
Mm-mm.
for the majority of the time that he was building his business, but
Right.
ultimately it led him to a place where like he doesn't have to work anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Guys, my stomach is saying feed me. It is
Oh,
11:30
oh my God,
Chicago
you're right.
time,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
have not had breakfast.
Bye.
So I'm gonna peace out. It was so
Bye,
great to
Mama.
talk with you both.
You too, Mama.
Bye.
Bye. But yeah, isn't it? It's so funny how just how it all kind of shakes out. You know what I mean? I think, and that's really, maybe that's why, because I think we talked about this, and obviously it's being recorded, so those of you that are watching this, you'll get that, because I lost my way with Tribe just because I was just like, it still feels like, and I think someone posted something yesterday, I'm just like, nope. But it still feels like, people are more comfortable, and in a weird way still finding confidence, if you will, in just supporting and
Yeah.
not striving beyond that. And that's, I just can't really stomach that.
I think
And
it's the fear, and
but the
this
fear is so unfounded right now.
it's
Especially
unfounded
right now.
because no job, no company is 100% secure, and it never will be. But it feels secure because it's the closest thing to job security, is like having that,
Mhm.
right? But like for me, I look at it and like I've been laid off before, and
And you figured it out.
I've been denied a raise, and I look at it like I've traded my freedom
Mhm.
for security.
Right.
And up until this point, it's been great. But after all of the sacrifices I've made and how I've helped other people like actually accomplish their goals and their dreams,
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm trading security for my freedom now.
Right. Exactly right.
And with freedom comes more responsibility, which is where the work comes in. That like you have to come up with an idea, and you have to
Mhm.
get your finances together, and you do have to do the work, and you have
Everything you do on a daily basis for the
yeah.
people you've supported for how many years now? You know what
And
I mean?
yeah, and like what I tell people is like just start with like committing to 2 hours a week to work on your passion project. Like it doesn't
Absolutely.
need to be like 24/7, and like obviously everybody's burned out from this year, but if you
Yep.
don't take the opportunity to actually make time to commit to yourself,
Yep.
you're going to end up really, really miserable
Mhm.
and resentful when you realize that sure, you may work with great people, but they're becoming millionaires and you still are at the same salary,
Absolutely.
and you can't buy a house,
You can't.
and like
You're
all of
still
these
check to
things.
check, you're still stressed the hell out, they're not, et cetera, et cetera. And that's, I guess, my point, and really what I want people to realize is, yes, it's okay. Like, in other words, I don't want to sound like I'm just bashing people who are executive assistants. That's not it at all. I did it. I loved it. I mean, it made me who I am. Let's be
Mhm.
honest with you. And it's provided an amazing life. Even pre-COVID, when I was able to travel whenever I wanted to go and teach and help other people. Not only be better assistants, but sort of plant that seed about like you're better even than this. You know what I mean? That all came from sitting in that seat for 27 years.
Mhm.
But, I'm also a big believer in following the times. And the times right now are making it very, very, very clear that this role is going bye-bye. As much as people want to believe that, oh no, it won't, it'll always be. I mean, there will always be a need for a certain level of support, but expensive headcount in an office, I'm
Mhm.
telling you,
And
I just don't think that's going to happen. I really
and you
don't.
also have to think about that, like obviously for me, even this year, I've had so many options to
Mhm.
leave,
Yep.
to make more money,
Right.
to work for another founder. I'm like, I'm done with that. I don't
Yeah.
want to work 27, 365. I
Oh,
just got my time back to
right.
myself. And I
Exactly.
know EAs that have decided that's what they're going to do for
Mhm.
now.
Exactly.
And they're making like $25,000 more than me, and they've got a 20% bonus. But I'm like, you know what? The fact that I'm like hourly, I use that to my advantage. I'm like,
Mhm. Yeah,
I'm online 8 to 5:30.
that's right.
After hours, you can text me, but that's my
That's
time.
my
And I'm
time.
like, you know what? I'm going to use the comfortability and the
Mhm.
security of my
Right.
current job
As you well should.
to make another plan and option for myself, because I already know I'm done.
Yeah.
And I agree that like there still will always be room for a high level EA, especially for people at the top.
Absolutely. But
What
it's not an EA.
No,
It's
and what
it's
is
a true business manager.
yeah, and what is required,
Yeah.
what's going to be required more so as we move forward is that 24/7 support, because I'm like my friend who just started working for the CEO like
Mhm.
of this other company.
Yep.
She's working 14-hour days,
Which
and
is which
she she's making a shit
I'm
ton of
sure
money,
she
and
is, but
I'm very happy for her. But I'm like, you know what?
there's a cap.
I'm enjoying the fact that I have a 40-hour work week right
Mhm.
now, and I can work on my passion projects.
Yep, as
And
well.
I really don't want to do that work anymore. I'm
Right.
done making other people successful. And I think that that's like, and even as somebody who felt very um, secure with
Mhm.
my now former boss who
Mhm.
just left, and we had talked many times about working together in the
Yep.
future. And because I was like, I think I'm going to be working with him till
No,
2022.
you're not.
That's not what happened.
Right.
But the fact that I had already taken the step and listened to you and my own intuition that like some things are going to change and it's not going to be in my favor,
Right.
and it's time for me to create the life that I want, and it's
Mhm.
going to take time, and if I don't start now, I'm going to
2
kick
years.
myself in the ass. Yeah.
Yep,
And
2
so
years.
it's going to take time, and I think that that's sometimes just what intimidates people is they're
It
like, oh,
is.
it's going to take so much time and I don't know what it looks like. It's like, but if you don't start, you're never
You
going to
then you're late.
get
That's what it is. I mean, every day you don't start is a day delayed,
yeah.
and my thing is, I've always said that it takes 2 years to build something super duper prominent and successful in today's paradigm, and
And it's going to
especially
be work.
and
It's
it is work. It is. I mean,
yeah.
think about it. It took me probably a good 2 years to get Mega U into something where I was, challenging the Bonnies and the Lucys of the world. It took a while for Tribe to actually take off, and it's still kind of taking off. And especially this year, hoping it really takes off, just because I'll be teaching something that no one else is teaching. So I like the journey though. I mean, I think that's another thing too. It's like I think because of the job that we do of having to make everything happen overnight and basically create miracles, that we get out of the habit, and also we sort of take away the sexiness of actually building something.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
solvers, so we get in, get out, you know what I mean? But we don't we have fear around actually building something over time. And that I I I try hopefully to demystify that in certain ways, especially like when we did the our class was really just showing you, have the objective, but it's going to take some work to get there. And now you just have to take small bites.
Mhm.
If you know what your objective and you're clear on what that is, then you can, kind of set your path and break that up into small bites and wins along the way until you actually hit what it is that you're trying to do. And that ain't happening overnight. That's not even happening in the space of a year. You know
No.
what I mean? It's really just more a matter of setting yourself up, giving yourself the habits, working those habits and making them innate. And then next thing you know, it's 2 years later and you're,
Yeah.
rolling in the dough and you're not working for anyone else.
Yeah.
You're put all the energies that you used to put into other people are going into you and your own business. You're able to hire, your ninja team so that you're not having to work 24/7, 365 ever. And it's voila, you've achieved the objective. So my thing is everyone should really be looking at this like, okay, if I were going to set my life up for 2 years from now to be successful, what would I need to do and what would that idea be?
And also, honestly, do you really want to be an EA for the rest of your
Please, God, no.
honestly,
I am
like,
just saying,
I
because I'm telling you, if you do, you
no,
got your life cycle is about to come to a very abrupt end. Because
yeah,
I'm
or you're
telling
just
you,
going to be miserable,
you'll be miserable because there will
like
be no EA jobs. That's the
on
thing.
call. You're either going to be out of a job or you're going to be on call 24/7 and have
It's not
zero
worth it.
personal time. It's
I'm
like,
listening. I
yeah.
mean, hospitalized twice doing that shit. It's not worth it.
Mhm.
And my thing is, even then, there's a salary cap. I
Yeah.
want to make more than $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't know about you, but I do.
Yeah.
I want to make about 10x that. So or 10 or even 100x that at
And
some
that's the
point.
whole thing, is that I do think that some of us in the past thought that being an EA would be more lucrative than it is. And don't get me, like, it's more rich in learning
Yeah,
than anything else.
yeah,
And what I've learned over the
and
last 10
abuse,
years
sadly.
has been invaluable and is going to assist me in becoming a self-sufficient, financially independent entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And now it's time for me to use that for myself. And like,
Absolutely,
paid my dues.
you have
I'm done.
exactly.
Like, and I'm
That
going
was
to use
exactly me.
my 9 to 5 to help propel me
As you
and
should,
get me to where I
as
want.
your executives do. Like, let's
But
be honest.
I don't want to be in the same place a year from now. I
No,
don't know.
no, you won't be. And that's the thing. I mean, that's the switch I talked about earlier is once you make that switch in here, then it becomes really, really almost not just clear, but actually exciting because, I'm sure you're running around with a lot more confidence now. It's like, you know what?
Oh
I
yeah.
there's a certain level of bullshit that I will not take from any of you motherfuckers. Like not even once. Because guess what?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I learned when I was starting Tribe, for instance, is I got to a point where I made that switch. I started working on Tribe. I was starting to fly and teach these classes and stuff. And then my bosses were kind of getting jealous. They're just like, well, are you around over the weekend? I'm like, no, I'm in Colorado or something. They're like, wait,
Mhm.
where you go? Like, do you fly every weekend? And I'm like, yeah, but am I here on Monday morning? They're
Mhm.
like, well, yeah. And I'm like, and has my work slipped? No. Then why are you asking me this question? You know what I mean? So you see what I'm getting at? Like, there's a certain low level, unfortunately, of oppression that a lot of our executives will get into sometimes just because they want to make sure that you as part of their ninja team are going to be able to perform to exactly what their expectation is. And
Mhm.
that's where we get in trouble as executive assistants is it's like, well, you might be part of their ninja team. They aren't necessarily part of your ninja team. See what I'm getting at? So you need to go out and create, an opportunity and a ninja team of your own.
It's like my former boss now, he's like, "Oh, I know some really successful life coaches. Like, let me know when you're ready for introduction."
Absolutely.
Right now I'm not.
No.
I'm not quite there, but next year definitely.
Yeah.
So it's like we have a lot more resources than we give our.
Way more.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the network,
Yeah.
the network that you have from the 20 years that you were an executive assistant.
Mhm.
Hopefully Tribe provides, some
Oh yeah.
some clients, et cetera, et cetera. So
Thank you,
we
Phoenix.
did it. Thank you, Mama.
Yay.
Have a wonderful weekend. I'm
You
actually headed
too.
up to where you guys are, by the way.
Oh, nice.
I'm about to
Be safe.
pack some clothes. Oh, I will. Drive fast. I'm just kidding. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.